right, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Another week, another great guest. We skip the fluff, get right into what actually moves the needle and moves revenue. That's what we're all about, is growth and growth focus. And today's guest is Stewart Townsend. And if you're building a SaaS company and wondering, should we build partnerships? Should we go direct? How do we scale without hiring an army? You're going to love this conversation. Stewart's the CEO of Podcast Hawk, a SaaS platform that helps businesses accelerate podcast research, automate outreach to podcast hosts so you can land the right shows faster and turn guest appearances into a really good growth channel. But Stewart isn't new to growth. Spent 20 years building indirect sales engines, 13 years at Sun Microsystems, Oracle, went on to the startup world, most notably helping Zendesk build their channel from zero to multi-million ARR program across Europe and North America. So we're getting tactical and what makes a channel program work and what breaks it and how to build a system that compounds. So Stewart, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time to come on, and we truly appreciate you being here.
Thanks. That was a great intro, Phil. The only challenge is when you say 13 years here and X amount of years there, it starts to add up quickly. Hence where I'm wearing a cap to hide my very grey hair at the moment.
Well, I like to tell when my kids say something about my hair turning a little bit gray, I like to say it's because I've been out in the sun too much and it's getting light.
Being in England, I'd probably struggle at that one, but I'll take it.
So why don't you give us a little bit of a background in your history, what you've done, and how you got to where you are, what you saw to get you there, where the opening was?
Yeah, of course. It's a bit of a convoluted story, so we'll start from the beginning, as any good story does. When I left school, I didn't go into IT or corporate land or anything like that. I actually worked at a steel firm selling cold rolled, hot rolled steel. A very bizarre path, I can tell you.
Yeah.
And I did that for, 10 years or so, but halfway through that realised selling steel was not really that exciting. And there's nothing wrong with selling steel, it just wasn't for me. So I took myself off to university part-time. I was married at the time, I had a little boy. So I did my HNC, I did my degree, and I did a master's in the end in one of the first masters in the UK in social media and psychology, bizarrely, looking at behavioural patterns.
I think psychology and behavioural patterns are sort of applicable to e-commerce, especially anything to do with selling. It's my opinion, but I've always found it useful.
I totally agree. It was just at the time sort of, I won't even say how many years ago, it was quite a reasonable amount of time ago. It just seemed an interesting subject to do my master's in. And it was the first sort of social media masters that had come out. And it's like, well, social media is driven by behavior and psychology, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I actually did my thesis on the fear of missing out. So it was basically the web in France could only have 25,000 people there, but at the time, I'm jumping forward a little bit, was working at a company that would mine the fire hose. Well, according to Twitter's live data, there's something like 500,000 people said they were in the front row watching the speech. It was like, I don't quite think that worked out. Anyway, I digress. So started in steel, took myself off to university to get a degree because you needed a degree to get a job in corporate. And then I managed to get, I suppose, what we'll call an apprenticeship at Sun Microsystems when I was 30. I was the oldest candidate in town. Me and a lot called James had joined. Everybody else, early 20s, just left university.
Sure.
No common sense whatsoever. But I learned a lot from that time there in terms of going through, I suppose, with a younger crowd, but then getting a role there of developing channel programs and structure at sort of corporate type level and managing $1 million budgets to then build my own startup accelerator program to find the next Google and Facebook. Sun at the time, Solaris, lots their own Spark chip, etc. For those that are sort of aware of the company, but weren't prevalent in the let's get Google and Facebook type space.
Yeah.
Sun got bought, unfortunately, by Oracle. Stayed there for about 18 months or a year or so. it wasn't really sort of where I was in Sun and where I was in Oracle were different places, and everybody was fab at Oracle and trying to find me a position. It just didn't fit. So I then jumped out of that space and went to go and work for a startup that I used to sell to called DataSift for a couple of years. And then finally, my proper job got headhunted by Zendesk to build out the channel program pre-IPO so we could start to accelerate revenue across different territories and geographically map into territories that we didn't maybe have boots on the ground, which at the time was predominantly most territories. It was the UK and the US. And then finally left there 6 to 7 years ago, post-IPO, set up a little mini consultancy, working with small SaaS companies to help them build channel in direct sales. And along that journey of then set up Podcast Hawk with my business partner, who I've never met. It's a separate story. And got involved in an enterprise SMS company as well, which actually used to be one of my customers at Sun. So it's been a long-winded journey, but also just lots learned along the way. Definitely lots learned, lots of things that your listeners and viewers hopefully can take away some sound bites and not do. Get on the path to riches quicker.
Yeah, everybody. There's so much. I think so much poor articles out there about giving people this sort of false idea about the path to riches. I can't stand reading the articles about how Jen has a side gig that started out doing $10,000 a month and now it's doing $100,000 a month. Side gigs. In my opinion, there's no such thing as a side gig because you can't be successful unless you're devoting yourself to it. You can't scale something just as a side gig, like, oh yeah. I mean, you look at Glossier, which is a beauty brand. She was doing blogs after work. She worked, I forget what her job was, but she was a blogger and she was just writing blogs about what she liked and what she didn't like about makeup and cosmetics and beauty. And she did it for, I think, 7 years as just blogging. And then she came out with her first product. That was a side gig, just writing. But there was she wasn't trying to monetize that at the time, but she had built 1 million followers. And then she said, now I can monetize it. And so she came up with a beauty line, but then she quit her job and she devoted herself fully to it. And now she's $1 billion company, but you can't do that as a side gig,
No, and it takes too much brain power. And so when I was at DataSift, was I at Sun? No, I was at DataSift. I set up this little mini events company to focus on big data and put together sort of global events, this, that, and the other. And so I'd finished DataSift, a startup, hardly any people there, working 12 million hour days, and then going to this other thing. And you just make loads of mistakes and you never move forward because you haven't got the energy or the commitment. It's like, I'm doing it. You've got to be in it or not, haven't you? That's the crux. Yeah. I mean, that's the last 6 months with Podcast Hawk has been, I'm in it. I'm not doing any consulting at the moment. I can only do one brain thing, which it's took me over 50 years to work out. But to do things really well, every day I get up and I do these activities rather than going, I'm starting a bit over here or I've finished. And especially if you've got a family, how can you sort of focus on a side gig with a family as well?
If you have a structure, right? If you're like a company that has a structure, you've got one solid piece of business or an entity that's driving revenue, and you say, okay, well, we're going to open up a second entity that's going to drive revenue, but it acts the same way. I could see doing that, right? Yeah. We tried to do it early on. We weren't successful at it, but we had a beauty line that we were doing on the shopping channels here, United States, Canada, abroad, and then Amazon and our own website. But we were doing so much and we learned how to do shopping channel business that the opportunity came up to do fashion while we still had beauty. And I said, well, we're already here. We know how to do it, so we might as well do it. And we started getting into it. But the beauty product, that was our first priority, was the beauty line. And it took up so much time that we weren't good at the fashion side of it because we just couldn't devote. And then you say to yourself, okay, well, you should hire somebody to do it, which we wound up, doing. But then it became, okay, well, they're doing that, we're doing this, and we're really giving no value over here. There's nothing for us over here because we hired somebody who really understands that. And it really just became us giving that to somebody else, and then continually pushing the beauty business, because that was where, and like you, I couldn't focus on learning the fashion business while I was,
Yeah.
focused on growing the beauty business. So, it's very difficult to say I have a side gig. I never respect people who say I have a side gig. You're either in it or you're not in it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's yeah, totally agree with you, Phil. It's just and again, especially when I'm doing consulting, it'll be in different categories and niches. So maybe I'm doing consulting to a SaaS company in the shipping sector. I have to be immersed in that and understand at least some
Right.
parts of it. I can't be doing that and going on the other side. I'm on this SaaS business and talking to somebody about sales. I mean, I can, but not 100% in each.
Right.
I maybe I've done that in my 30s or my 20s, but even then, I probably believed I was doing it 100%, but I wasn't. I wasn't focused 100%.
Yeah. Well, you're trying to build something. You have to devote yourself to it. You can't. I can see in the foundational time of being an entrepreneur, when you have a job and you say, well, I'm going to start this business, and
Yeah.
I know plenty of guys who did that, working nights, working weekends, building when you're in your 20s, your
Mhm.
late teens. Then it's not really a side gig. It's you're building your foundation. And then once you get to a certain point, you say, okay, I'm done with my job. I'm going to devote myself to this. That I understand. That concept I get. I've done that myself, but I don't understand, when people say, I have a side gig that went from, zero to $1 million. It wasn't a side gig. You had to devote yourself to get there.
Yeah, totally, totally.
So talk about what you have today, and how that helps SaaS companies.
Yeah, so the focus at the moment, I should say, focus on life. So Podcast Hawk is a SaaS service that we set up, which is we've got two strands to it, but I'll give you the backstory. So my business partner's in Mexico. We're both part of this global group that's from the Tropical MBA podcast. We have never met each other in person. Ridiculous statement to make. But we both had the same challenge of trying to get on podcasts that were live and we could get, in touch with. I was coming at it from an angle of the consulting to go on podcasts and talk about, I'm still very passionate about channel. People don't understand it at all. They just, if they've not been involved in sort of corporate type sales in that sort of area, they don't get it. And Ray was coming from it. He had a language business and he wanted to go and promote that. Long story, we both started to build something. Ray was more of a coder. I was more of a data nerd. And we came together over a mastermind session. So a couple of years later, we've just built this platform that gives people access to find podcasts to go and appear on and use our campaign tool to then reach out and write emails and do that. We've took this a little bit further because what we were getting was clients that would say, really great, but I don't have the time to do that. So we've now built it into a model for agencies predominantly rather than sort of consumers to bring their clients to us, and we'll help support them and do that work for them in the background, because we're not a typical agency in terms of the platform we've built now is very data driven, like from my background. So we take shows, we augment lots of data points to it, and then we find similar sort of shows around that. And then we make sure that we're offering the host some value. So it's about, right, okay, if we're going to go on that show, what we're bringing to the listener. Doesn't matter what, if I can't bring anything. My big take is I started listening to Pat Flynn, he's one of our advisors. Long time ago when I was at Sun, I used to have to drive 5 hours there and 5 hours back, not every day, and to listen to podcasts. And it gets to the end of a podcast and you take away something like, right, I'm going to have to stop because I want to write this down, I want to remember it, old school handwritten things. And that's what we say is like, if you're going to go on a podcast, you want a listener to go, that was really great. I just took that little soundbite away. I want to stop my car and write that down so I don't forget it. So we work on that basis. So in the background, Ray's over in Mexico. He sort of stood back a bit because he's had to do some other stuff with his business. And that's me. I'm hustling day in and day out on this, but also I'm building it on the idea of, like you said earlier with the intro, of it going through a channel. So it's not a direct sales approach. I'm looking for agencies to try and resell it. I'm looking for a reseller model, which that's my background from Sun, Oracle, SaaS companies. It's
Right.
they call it lazy salesman, but it's basically getting other people to sell for you. It's not lazy at all. It is hard work.
Well, you look at, I don't know if you're familiar with High Level, which is like a CRM, but it does a lot of different things. And that was their model, and that helped them scale really fast by getting people to resell the product and giving them a discount to do it. So
And that's
one of the things. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say Atlassian is a reseller only model that goes through channel. They don't have direct salespeople, and they've grown into a $1 billion organization. Plenty are. I mean, look at Microsoft. 94 to 95% of its licensed business goes through channel. It doesn't have a big direct. It does have a big direct sales team, but in the numbers that we're talking about, predominantly 94 to 95% goes through its distributors and its channel.
Yeah, in the beginning, when they were just, when they were doing primarily PC apps, it was mostly all through channel partners.
Yeah,
you buy a computer through Hewlett Packard, and it comes with Microsoft products.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
today, it's a little bit more complicated for them because they are selling AI tools. They're selling, so much bigger solutions that you need sort of a bit of a direct sales force. But
I'll show my age now, Phil. I'm from an era of off-the-shelf licensing where you went and picked up a license which was a piece of paper with a code on it. Yeah. We won't talk about that again.
No, I remember that. You used to get it on your disc when you bought the disc. It had the license in the back.
The license code on that. Yeah,
and
old school.
Yeah, very old school. That was the beginning of the PC world. What I was just going to say was, we started to get approached because we place a lot of advertising and place a lot of advertising on connected TV, connected radio, like Sirius XM, places like that. And, we started to get inquiries for people to do live or for finding people to do live spots on podcasts, live advertising spots on podcasts. And there's some companies out there that specialize in podcast advertising, but it seems that, having the host, let me give you an example. Maybe I'm not explaining it correctly. When we were in a couple of different businesses, we went to Howard Stern's people on Sirius XM, right, which is a big product here, right? I don't know if you know Howard Stern, but
yeah,
I loved his program. He had millions and millions of listeners, and you could advertise where they'd run an ad on their show, and it was, or you could pay, I forget how much it was, and Howard would actually read the commercial.
Wow.
But he would do it in a way that it was more of an endorsement than a commercial. And so it was expensive, but it was very, very effective. The difference between running a commercial and having the endorsement, having the person talk about it, is tremendous. And I don't see a lot of platforms doing that particular thing, where you can get the host to do it, right? There are a lot of people out there that are doing videos on YouTube that talk about it, but that's more direct, right? They go out, they have people that are going out and outreaching to various companies that would make sense for them, or various companies are coming directly to them. So I didn't know if that was something you were thinking about in the future, or if that was even something that made sense.
No, it does make sense. So part of sort of mining the data is finding out who the sponsors are and the adverts and such. But you're right, I've never thought of it that way. But I watch loads of YouTube, and literally it'll be the host stops and goes, "Oh, I'm sponsored by whatever VPN service. I use it when I'm going abroad and blah, blah, blah. And like I say, it's not an advert. It's an endorsement,
Yeah.
but they say it's paid. Whereas on podcasts, they're dynamically inserted ads based on what they think the audience is. Could be totally wrong, but they dynamically insert those ads. Whereas that is a model. I do prefer that endorsement from the host, even if it's paid. That actually, as long as it's a true endorsement, shall we say?
The way they usually, if they do it correctly, let's say there's one guy who he has a channel on YouTube, which is a great channel. He and a bunch of people, they scam the scammers, right? They
All right.
they
Yeah.
they expose the scammers,
Yeah.
and he always he'll be on it. He'll start his video for the day, and he's talking about whatever, and then about 3 or 4 minutes in, he'll say, and for you people, in order to protect yourselves, I suggest you use such and such app that you can put on your iPhone, and for $10 a month, you're protecting yourself against scammers. It's going to stop the random calls and blah blah blah. And he does it in such a way that it's an endorsement, but at the same time, it sort of fits with his program. If he was doing his program and all of a sudden started talking about hot sauce, I think it wouldn't fit so well, right? But you could do that on somebody who's doing, doing cooking shows, right? They could talk about hot sauce. So, I think that there's a way to do it, but it doesn't seem to me that there's a good platform out there to do the endorsement side of it. I can run ads on them all day long. I mean, just like you said, dynamically inserted. We can do it on the demand side platforms and dynamically insert them. We can go through, even connected TV, connected radio. We can run ads on those podcasts, but getting sort of the endorsement is a bit different.
Yeah. So the sort of data that we're pulling is looking at the sort of profiling the show and the host, which would then give data as a fit for that endorsement. So They do have sponsors and such, but again, because there's that advertising platforms, I don't think a lot of people reach out to them for that direct endorsement sponsor, like you say. That's actually a good use of it, because literally we can sort of profile and go, these sit in this category. Here's a typical sort of audience. And we measure it on marketing reach. So how wide is their network? Not on downloads or listens, but when they're amplifying something, if they're all, on LinkedIn, got a good YouTube following, blah, 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 then that can go far because it's in the description and everything. So actually, I've not thought about that because again, I just think advertising dynamically, but actually why not replicate what the YouTubers do? Because that really works, and that helps pays for those shows and those production costs really quickly.
Yeah. And it's just a different way of advertising. I think when people see the video commercial or whatever, unless you capture their attention in that first, 3 seconds, they're stop paying attention. But if it's inserted sort of into the dialogue of the podcast, or anything, I think it works a lot. It works a lot better. I mean,
it's we're all human, aren't we? We work on endorsements and referrals. So if I need somebody to come and mend the kitchen sink, I'm going to ask my closest network. I'm going to go, do you know a really good plumber that can? It's the same again. If a host is endorsing a product, you would have thought they'd verified and validated it and gone, actually, I use this widget daily, and I do honestly use it because it does save time from that.
Yeah, no question. So I think it's anyway, it's an interesting. We were looking because we had a couple of clients ask us about it, and we started looking at most of the podcast advertising agencies that are out there are just running ads, which we can do. I don't need anybody else to do that.
Just run them like they would a Facebook campaign or a Google campaign, or it's another platform, isn't it? It's like, there we go. We think, based
actually, you'd be surprised. It actually runs more. We actually run more through the platforms that we're running connected TV through, because they're more and more like the podcasts are showing up as video podcasts, right? Spotify, I mean, has started pushing more of the video podcasts out to the
Mm.
OTT channels, right? And
Yeah.
so you're starting to see more of that show up there, and so it falls into the category of really connected TV more than anything. Which then the beauty of that is that you can then who's into who is interacting with the show. So you're assuming that they interacted with the ad, and then you can retarget them online because the connected TV platforms are all demand side platforms, and so you can do it in multiple places. We could do on demand radio. We can do um, connected TV, and we can do Google and Meta and all that stuff
So you could
through.
do full circle
Yeah.
retargeting there. And actually, yeah, I mean, in terms of because the other thing I will say, clients, friends, my mum, podcasts are, you know who the audience is. If
Mhm.
it's a podcast about entrepreneurship
Yeah.
in a little town in Spain, that's your audience. You know it already. And you can tell, and you can look back at some of the guests that have been on. And if it's about e-commerce or whatever, you just know they're the people that are listening to it. So if you're a plumber, you're not going to advertise on there because it's not your audience. It's a real focus target. It's not broad at all, is it? You know who's going to be listening to that and watching it.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, is that
Yeah.
it's so highly targeted. Well, when you run meta ads, there's targeting in there, but it's not.
No, it's rubbish.
And there's so many fake accounts and so many bots on there that it just gets really, really frustrating. I was speaking to somebody the other day who was talking about they run ads. They have an agency similar to mine, but we were just sharing information. And he was saying, 15 years ago, whenever Meta first started, when it was just Facebook, he said, we used to be able to get like 10x, excuse me, 10x ROAS,
Mm.
11x, sometimes 15x. He said, and we really had limited targeting. He said, and nowadays, if we can get to a 5x, it's a big deal. 3x has almost become the norm. And I said, in the early days of direct response television, you used to look for a 4x return. You
Right.
run a spot, you get a
Yeah.
4x return. And today, if they can get a 1-to-1 return, they consider that to be a success. And the reason is because there's no in traditional television, there's no targeting. I mean, you're targeting channels, but
Yeah.
you don't really know who's watching those channels, right? With connected TV, you're targeting people. You're targeting, I want to show my ad to this person, right? This persona.
Right.
And with Meta claims that they have all this targeting, but they really don't anymore. I mean, the targeting is still too broad. Same thing with Google. The only difference is with Google that if you can feed it your custom audience from your website, and it'll start to get better and better and better. So we see
Yeah.
better returns on Google than we do on the Metas of the world. But demand side platform, anybody. When we have a client, if they say they're spending $10,000 or more on Meta, we always say you got to stop, and we have to move you to a demand side platform because you'll get much better returns. I mean, spending that kind of money on Meta is just throwing money away.
So I run a set of charity car shows to raise money for a local hospice. So we use Facebook to target locally. When we've got events on, it's like, stick 20 quid in, 50 quid or whatever it is to try and get more people meet, more money raised. So we're talking about a small area that I live in.
Sure.
And literally, I can put that money in, hammer it, and I get a better return if I just go out and throw some flyers out the window.
Right.
Because it says it knows who the audience is. So when people are interested in cars or what X, Y, Z, and it's like literally, I think it just throws it out at anybody that's in Lancashire. So we've pulled back from that. It is literally better to go and do flyers and put them through letterboxes than it is to do that.
Yeah, I had a guy who does remodels, small, medium, large remodels for houses, and he was doing localized meta ads. He was doing localized ads. We started doing just localized connected TV ads for him. But he said, my most effective spend is I pay a college kid to go out and do door hangers. He said, it's old school. He said, but it works. He said, that's where I get the best return.
It does. It's just, and again, it's just, there's less cold calling and those sort of human interactive aspects. Like, just send a million emails, don't speak to anybody,
Oh
and
yeah,
don't interact with them. And literally now, and the whole idea behind Channel is it's a relationship model. You don't do any of that. You build a relationship with your partners who have got a relationship with their software companies and their clients and all of that. And it's like companies now do anything to try and block you from having a conversation with them.
yeah,
Literally putting up some bots that just take you around in circles. And yeah, I may sound old and archaic, but I just want to speak to a human for 3 seconds and validate and go, have you received my payment? Yes. That's all I need to know. Great. Fab. Your bot
yeah.
couldn't tell me that. Sorry, go on.
No, I agree 100%. We stopped doing cold email outreach, a couple of years ago because it just doesn't work and it's intrusive and people can't stand it. You're filling up somebody's. I mean, when was the last time you really reacted to the email that came that said, I can help your business? You don't, because you
I
don't
don't.
know the person, you don't know anything about them. But what we started doing was we use LinkedIn a lot,
Mm.
and we have a automation tool that we use, but it's an AI driven automation tool, and it's very specific in how it talks to the outreach person. So it makes it's first of all, I have to build the agent. It has to get to know my voice, how I write, how I
Yeah.
talk, all that stuff. And then you go out and use Sales Navigator, and you build your list of who you want to target. And then it goes out and just the first interaction is just a connection. The second interaction may be a comment on a post that they wrote or something, something else. Then it may be, here's something that you might find interesting. And then you wind up building this dialogue, even though it's not face-to-face dialogue or through the phone, it's on LinkedIn, and you're building this dialogue. So by the time you ask for a meeting, which may be, 2 or 3 weeks later, they feel like they know you. And it's like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
get on a call.
You're building that rapport, and I get loads of inbound emails promising the world for Podcast Hawk or other businesses or whatever. And they haven't even spelled the company name right or know who I am, or, do you want to hire your next batch of developers? Well, no, because we don't have this. Or do you want to hate? It's like, really, just spend a bit of time. And like you say, so you just ignore them. Whereas on LinkedIn, you can build up that identity with that person and start to, it's about building that rapport and sort of seeing, can we help solve some problems together? What are the type of activity conversation, isn't it? And that's what you want to do in life, not just keep bashing, buy this now, buy it.
Oh
It's
my
like,
God. Yeah.
why?
Well,
I don't need to. Why do I
it's,
need to? What's it solving for me?
it's the same thing with advertising. That's why social media has become such a big tool for selling, because a person who owns a business, person who started a brand, can get on there and create videos and talk about why they started the brand. And then they're building an audience essentially, and people start to get to know them. It's the whole model has shifted. I actually wrote a book on the why behind the buy, which is, why should I buy your product? Because and it goes for B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter to me. Why should I buy your product? Like, who are you? You just sent me an email, and now you just you filled up my inbox with 10 emails to tell me how great you are. I don't care. What I care about is, how's this going to help me? Right.
Yeah,
And
exactly. It's
yeah,
like, is this going to solve a problem in my business, in my life? What's it going to be? Great. Let's have a conversation, because you have identified a problem that I may have or I may not, but at least you're making an effort out on it, rather than just the blanket thing of, I've noticed your website's a bit poor and I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Really? I don't even have a website. So why? Just, yeah.
no, it's amazing that, and what that model is ridiculous to me. You set up 15, 20 variations of your website. Like in our case, it's Crunch Growth. So you would set up, crunchgrowthmail.com and crunchgrowththis.com,
Yeah.
whatever. You have 15, 20 different. And then what they do is they just send this automation tool out there to send out thousands and thousands of emails. And to me, that's so ridiculous, because I always say when guys pitch me on that concept, I say, well, even a blind squirrel can get a nut every once in a
Yeah.
while,
Yeah,
but
exactly. Yeah.
that's not a method for going out and creating customers. It's not a method for going out and creating a relationship with a client that I can help. Then you fill my calendar up with people who want to talk about their business, but that's not targeted. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
And it, when we're talking to clients about trying to get them booked on shows or them getting booked on shows or whichever way it is, it's all about, you've got to respect that a lot of podcast hosts are doing this part-time. They're doing it because they're passionate. They're not making a living out of it. Some are making a living around it, but you've got to respect that inbox. If you send an email, it's about who are you, what you're going to do, and what value you're going to bring to that audience. If you can't answer those questions, just don't bother sending it. Because if your story is, I've worked in steel all my life and I want to come on your entrepreneur show. Well, what have you done? I just sold steel.
Yeah.
Who cares? There's nothing you can share from that. There's no insights or anything at all. Whereas if you've had a diverse career, you started off in China, you're a black belt in karate, you've climbed Kilimanjaro, and on the way you've got 3 businesses and failed. Yeah, there's lots that you can unpick from that, isn't there?
Yeah.
But if it's people think about themselves, not about the person that they're engaging with and building that relationship with them. It's just, I don't know, I sound like a grumpy old man, but it is just annoying when you come from a model where literally your job is to build relationships. Direct sales is about building relationships. It's understand that customer pain, can you solve it, and removing it and making it as frictionless as possible. It's again, we're not rocket scientists here, are we? It's just very simple, basic stuff.
All sales is about building relationships, even selling to the consumer. And that's why traditional advertising just doesn't really work so much anymore. Just that pounding message, buy me, buy me, buy me. Here's a coupon. Here's a coupon. And we have so many clients that come to us that want to do that. And we say, if that's what you want to do, there's plenty of other places out there. Hell, I could get AI to do that for you and you won't have to pay. But what the difference that we're bringing to the table is we're telling you how to build a relationship with your brand to that end user. And I don't care what that end user is. I mean, our primary focus, to be honest, has always been consumer products, primarily in beauty, personal care, and food. Those are our strengths. And about 7 years ago, we had this industrial company, Concrete. It's one of the largest concrete companies on the East Coast. And they came to us because they wanted us to run ads to get drivers for the mixer trucks. They had like 150 mixer trucks and they had 60 drivers. And so they were desperate for drivers. And they were a company that's been around for like 40 years, but nobody really knew them. And so we started doing ads. And then we said, what would make this better would be some social media stuff, videos telling people who you are, what you do. And we started doing it and it was amazing. And now we literally run connected television ads for them. We have billboards for them. We have ads running in the airports for them. We have all kinds of things, have radio ads. And it's because they all of a sudden realized that they were building relationships with these people. Even if you're a homeowner and you've got a contractor who's maybe building an extension on your home or redoing your driveway, and they say, we need to do concrete. We get it from this company because, we look and we see it on social media. We see it, and it's really turned into a huge business to the point where they have like over 200 trucks now, and they're still looking for plenty of drivers. It's a huge company. They also have a construction arm. They build huge businesses, huge buildings in government buildings in DC and university buildings, casinos, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's a big company, and but I mean, they never thought about advertising or creating that connection with people and seeing how that benefits them. Right.
It's interesting you say about the coupon code. So in the SMS business has been going 20 odd years. Some corporate clients, Procter & Gamble, Vodafone, etc. And over the years, they've built a component which is coupons, mainly for Procter & Gamble for, it was for nappies and things and that sort of stuff. But some of the use cases are pizza companies, restaurants, etc., come and say, "Yeah, can you deploy that?" It's like, well, we can, but it's got to be data driven, because what most people don't realize is when Pizza Express or whoever it is giving these coupons out, they're also giving the coupons out to the people that spend real money. So it's literally, it's like, I've got my coupon for 50% off. I was going there anyway, but now I've got a coupon, I'm going to spend that. And it drives the wrong behavior. It drives people then to become coupon led. And there's not a problem with that. But then institutes are just leaving money on the table. So we didn't step back from it, but we came more educational and said, you need to target the people that are not coming in the store,
Yeah.
or if it's 7:30 and you're quiet, target those people that are local. So do targeted coupons, not just blanket, everybody gets a coupon. And literally, some of the restaurants that we were working with, the business fundamentally shifted and changed the mindset as well, not just from a revenue per store, but just actually how they thought about marketing. It's like, oh, yeah, it's data-led marketing. You're building relationships with your customers. You understand them and you hold data points on them. So you can actually talk to them as human beings, not just treat them as Borgs. Everybody's the same. It's like, no, they're not the same.
Yeah. What's funny to us is that, and we tell, if we get a client and they want to run connected TV ads, we say to them, there's two things you have to do to be successful. The first is you have to really understand your customer persona, because if you don't know who we're targeting and you just say we're targeting everybody, it's not going to work. And the second thing is you have to have a really great piece of creative. You've got to know who your customer is, and how you're going to reach them. What are the trigger points? And it's amazing to me how few people really know how few brands know who they're really selling to. And because I hear too many, well, we sell to everybody. Well, I was in the shaving business. We sold razors for men and women. Now, if you said to me, who do you sell to? You could argue, okay, it's shaving. Anybody who's between the ages of 18 and dead are still shaving. But that's not true. Our true market was between the ages of 25 and 40, because those are the only people you're going to convert to a new razor. Yeah, you're going to have outliers, but you're trying to convert somebody to a new razor. A guy who's over 40, he's been using a 2-blade, a 3-blade, a 5-blade, whatever he's been using it for 20 years. It's going to be very difficult to change him. A woman who's been using the Lady Schick for 20 years, it doesn't want to change. But in that 25 to 40-year-old range, that's where your core customer resided. And too many times I hear from people, well, we sell this and everybody uses it. Not really. You're talking about a difference between usage and being able to convert somebody to something new.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same, in channel, when we're talking about sort of channel sales or any of that sort of aspect. It's the same again. It's like, so who are your channel partners? When I'm talking to a client, it's like, who do you think your channel partners are?
Right.
Can be any of them. It's like, no, well, let's narrow it down, because actually let's take, who is your end customer, who you try to reach? And then, is that a service-led sale? Is it X, Y, Z? I think it's amazing the amount of really intelligent people and companies forget about the basics, because as they get bigger and they get more people, they forget about who are we serving here, who are we actually serving. It's like, oh, it looks like this, it's a square shape sort of thing, and it's right, okay, now I get it. Now we can work backwards. And like I say, with any sort of component, whether it's in a retail store or online, you're targeting that message to get to them, because you want to sell to them. You want them to be a lifetime customer, but you also want to help educate them that there is other options out there. They just may not be aware of it. It's like, I'd not, until we spoke, I'd not heard of the acronym, that over the top TV. I then went away and Googled it. And I'm like, all right, okay, so it's all this different world. It's like, but it is, until you learn this knowledge and get it, or just a little nugget, you've not been exposed to it, have you?
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry. I'm steering us all over the place, Phil. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I mean, but you're 100% right. Like OTT channels, like over the top TV, it's not something that people even realize. Like Netflix is an OTT channel and such. And now there's fast TV, which is free ad sponsored TV, which is starting to become really huge, because you've got so many channels out there like Tubi and Hulu and Netflix, et cetera. And there's so much more content that people want. And I read I can't remember if this was a Google study or somebody else's study, but And it doesn't matter whether it's B2C or B2B. The buyer consumes 7.5 hours of your content before making a decision about whether or not to do business with you. And that content could be, interactions like I talked about with LinkedIn, could be written content, blog posts, etc. It could be your posts on LinkedIn, your posts on social media, could be short form video, long form video, combination of all of it, television commercials, etc. So, people are interested in who you are, but they want to know that 7.5 hours of content is where they're building that relationship with you, making a decision whether they want to do business with you.
And that's the thing now. There is so much information available. I am that person that goes and researches before I
Yeah.
buy. It's literally because I don't want a bad experience. I know it's bizarre. It's because I don't want that poor experience. I want to
Yeah.
know, like I'd order this part of eBay and it wasn't for my car. I'd ordered it in error. And I cancelled it within minutes. And then it was like, right, okay. I got an email the next day to say it had been dispatched. It was coming from Lithuania. Oh my God, how am I going to return this? What's going on? And it took me about 5 or 10 minutes to navigate around eBay to find how to actually contact them without clicking Autobot. But when I did, it was brilliant. They rang me back. I got a response. I told what to do. Great. Took a little bit of flummoxing, but that's the sort of experience I want where, same with Amazon, the reactive, and that's what your online stores or your retail stores, that's where they can win into. It's literally they can build those relationships with customers by just listening to them, taking that feedback. If a customer can't contact you or find the details on your website, like I was trying to sort of help my friend organize an event, and literally I was just getting replies back pointing me to PDFs on the website, and I'm going, no, I just need a cost per delegate. I can look at the PDF all day long, but I'm doing this for 24 hours. I've got X amount of people. That's for 8 hours. I need a quote. And literally it's just like, really, it's, you're a 100-person company running this. What? I just get frustrated. I'm like, really, I'll come and consult for you for free. Just let me sort this out.
Yeah.
Annoying.
Well, it's too, unfortunately, people are, I think, relying too heavily on AI. Listen, I love AI. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing it. I love it. I think, but there's time and a place for it. Certainly, there was somebody who I thought did it really well. Now, I don't have it off the top of my head, but they essentially had a great, I think it was Verizon, actually. And they had a real quick qualifier of, questions, and it was definitely AI. I'll get you to the right person. Just answer this, answer this, answer this. And then it's like, okay, boom, they got me to the right person. And then the next thing you know, I'm having a chat with somebody who's correct, and they solved the problem. And I thought that was a great use of AI for essentially narrowing down who to get to the right person. And then you look at Meta, if you've ever had to deal with Meta on service. It's like they got this AI thing that'll send you into a loop, and it's like, forget it. You're on there for an hour and a half, and you don't, we're getting you to the right person. This was the best one. I have a screenshot of it. We'll get you to the right person. They should be here in 3 to 4 minutes. And it was like 2 days later, nobody still showed up. And I have screenshots of it like every day. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So, there are people that rely too heavily on AI and don't do it correctly. And then there's people that use AI, in conjunction with human interaction. But I agree with you. We're sort of losing that.
When we're at Zendesk, that's, we talked about signposting consistently. It was like customer service. You want to get that customer to an agent as quickly as possible, but capture some data on the way. So you get to the right agent, and the agent's prepared to answer the questions.
Yeah.
And using AI bots to do that is great, because suddenly you haven't got somebody triaging all the tickets. It's just an AI bot pushing you through the direction, going, is it X, Y, Z? Right. Okay. Now you can talk to somebody. Perfect. That's all I want to do. I want to, but some people use it wrong, and they use it as like a moat defense. I don't know what.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally, we don't want to talk to you. We're using this to deflect you all over the place, but apart from to an agent that, we don't want to speak to you, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just annoying, because it's literally, it's a way of losing brand reputation and losing customers really quickly, just because you can't have that conversation. It's like, if I'm going to spend hundreds of pounds on something, can I just ask this one question before I do?
Yeah.
Probably not. No,
right.
we don't want to speak to you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're out of time. I appreciate it. And again, where can people reach you, get in touch with you, or use your product?
So podcasthawk.com is the product. I'll send you the links and descriptions on
We
that.
have it in the description. We'll put it
Yeah,
in the
perfect.
description.
Yeah, and then the best place to find me, and anybody can ask me questions or whatever, is go and find me on LinkedIn. I'll send you my link. I've got my LinkedIn profile. Check that regularly. Like to have conversations. I like to know what people do. And again, if any of the audience want to ask questions about podcasting, about channel, about SaaS, if they want to ask about steel, they can do. I'm open to having a chat and sort of thing. I like to sort of pass on that knowledge and help people as much as I possibly can. So people can always book a slot in my diary and have a little chat about stuff.
Yeah,
No problem at all there.
great. I appreciate it. I thought that it was a great interview. I thought it was a great time because you didn't just talk about partnerships as a theory. You just laid out how to design that machine and what the founders need to do. So for everyone watching, if you're trying to scale revenue and tired of random acts of marketing, go back and rewatch the parts about, channel readiness, partners, building a repeatable system, and if you want to connect with Stewart and learn more about Podcast Hawk and his channel advisory work, we'll put everything in the show notes. So the link to his site, his LinkedIn, and I think there's a couple of other social media links. But if you got value today, just follow us every week. We do a new show every week. We've always try and have interesting guests on, feed the entire ecosystem. It's not just one channel of type. We don't just focus on e-commerce. We try and focus on all kinds of business because there's a ton of entrepreneurs out there. A lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs that need that spark and say, hey, you know what? That's a good business idea, or I can follow that path. So until next time, like we always say, keep building smart, keep building real, and keep growing. And until next time, we'll see you.